Hey everyone, thank you for joining us here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. I'm joined by Katie Mulligan, who is a registered dietitian nutritionist, a pediatric and family dietitian, and she's the owner of Well Family Nutrition Coaching.
That's right.
Katie, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it, and I want to let you know that Katie is also the program director for the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program at the University of Rhode Island. That program helps low-income families eat healthy on a budget.
Yes.
So you are an expert in what we're going to be talking about today, which is meal planning.
That's right.
Awesome. So why is meal planning so important?
So meal planning, I think, is the secret to eating healthy while saving time and saving money. I think those three things are really important to a lot of families and individuals, and meal planning can do all those things for you.
Okay, so let's break this down for people. So a lot of times some people can get stressed out about meal planning, or they say, I don't have time for meal planning.
Yeah.
But in essence, meal planning can help save you time, save you money, and it can help everybody eat healthier. So let's walk through this. The fact of meal planning can help save you time. How so?
Sure, absolutely. So meal planning saves you time because you'll spend a shorter amount of time planning your meals for the whole week than it would if you planned your meals on a daily basis. So for instance, I plan my family's meals for the week on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then I write our weekly meal plan, I write my grocery list, and then I go to the grocery store. That entire process takes me about an hour and a half. That includes grocery shopping, getting to and from the grocery store, and everything.
You have it down.
I do. So if I did that, though, every single day, I would spend 15, 20 minutes thinking about what to feed my family, another 20 to 30 minutes stopping at the grocery store at the busiest time of day, along with everybody else in the world who's doing that. And by the end of the week, that's another 3 to 4 hours that I'm never going to get back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So essentially, instead of going, okay, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? You are figuring it out day by day.
Exactly.
So do it all, plan it up, save it for a Saturday or save it for a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You go through and you can use different tools, which we'll talk about,
Yeah.
to plan it all out at the beginning or the end of the week. Okay, so let's talk about, and overall, it'll help save you time. So sometimes people will say, well, if I'm, getting takeout, or if I'm picking up something on the way home, that can save me time because that doesn't take a lot of time, but that can actually backfire, right?
It can. That is a big misconception, and I like to use the example of getting a pizza, right? So by the time you get home, you figure out you don't know what to feed your family for dinner. You decide what kind of pizza everybody in the house is going to eat. You order it, the delivery guy comes. I mean, that whole process is, 30, 40 minutes. If you had planned to make a pizza that night, you could have had that pizza and be sitting down with your family in less time and a lot less money, too.
And usually healthier. Like, we like to make those flatbread pizzas,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So you put on your own kind of cheese, you put on your own
Mm-hmm.
kind of sauce, and it's a lot healthier, too.
You're absolutely right.
So I like that example. Make your own pizza at home. And sometimes, have you ever tried making your own dough?
Yeah. I haven't had a lot of success with
Me
dough,
neither.
so maybe people can give me some advice in that area.
I tried making the cauliflower dough before.
Oh.
That didn't
Yeah.
work out. If anybody has tips on that,
Yeah.
please do let me
Yeah.
know. Okay, so let's get into, so we talked a little bit about time, and I think that's beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about saving money, because there are different strategies here where meal planning can help save money.
Absolutely, yeah. We're on a pretty tight budget in my house with our meal planning. I like to keep us on a budget of about $100 a week. And I have a family of 4.
Oh, wow.
So, and of course I teach this for a living. So saving money on my food dollar is a big thing for me. So the more times you go to the grocery store during the week, the more money you're apt to spend, because you're going to fall victim to those impulse buys that the supermarket is trying to get you to spend money on. So remember, the market isn't in the business of getting you to save money. They're in the business of getting you to spend money. So the more times you step in their store, the more money you're going to spend, right? And then also when you're at the grocery store, you don't always remember what you have in your pantry or in your fridge or in your freezer at home. So you might end up buying things that you already have, you didn't need, and then that's money you wasted.
So our friend, organizing expert Kristen McRae always talks about this. Make sure you know what you have.
Yeah.
If you're writing your lists, you're doing your to-do lists, all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. She's a big advocate of meal planning.
Right.
Because that way you're not wasting time.
Yeah.
You're not wasting money.
Yeah.
So you guys
It's
would get along in that regard, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it. When you plan your meals, you can also stretch your food dollar by planning leftovers and planning to stretch your meals. So I like to give my clients the example of a shredded chicken. So I'll put my shredded chicken in a crock pot or the Instant Pot, and then I can use that shredded chicken for chicken soup, chicken quesadillas, tacos, curry chicken salad. I can use it in many different ways. So I've taken 2 chicken breasts and spread it out over 2, maybe 3 meals for the whole week.
Okay, so you can use, and I mean, you can even get frozen chicken to use in the crock pot too, because sometimes that can be less expensive.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to shop on a budget, those are some examples, and then you use that over the whole week.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about some ways to save money, because a lot of people will say, well, eating healthy is expensive.
Yeah. Again, a misconception, I believe.
Yeah, I think that sometimes can be an excuse.
Okay.
Use a misconception, because there are ways that you can find nutritious food for healthy, and there's ways around it. Sometimes it's just a matter of being educated, right?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Being educated is key. I also think people fall victim to these trends.
So true.
Clean eating, things like that. While there's nothing wrong with clean eating, it's not the most economical diet to be on. And I think people also think, well, to eat healthy, I have to eat organic, and I have to eat grass-fed, local, farm-raised. Well, that's not necessarily true. You can still eat healthy without eating organic and without necessarily eating clean. Not that there's anything wrong with those diets, but you don't have to eat those ways to eat healthy. The other thing I like to do is to use the example of this My Plate here, which is something from the USDA has put out, and I like to use it because it's such a simple picture of how you can plan a healthy meal and on a budget. And the biggest thing about that picture is that what people will notice is that the portion of protein on that My Plate is very, very small, and people don't realize that meat is usually the most expensive thing on their plate. So if you can make your meat portion smaller and stretch it out to more family members and more nights of the week, then you're going to be saving a lot of money. Most Americans have half their plates filled with meat or protein, and that is really a very expensive way to be eating.
So make your plate full of salad, legumes, and just a little piece of chicken or fish or steak or whatever it is going to be.
Some people will say use your meat as a condiment.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm. And then there's lots of low-cost sources of protein. You don't have to eat meat as your only source of protein.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What are some ways where you can get some kind of like low-cost ways that are nutrient dense? And this is kind of always my favorite part. Okay, so you're saying eat healthy, but make it low cost. Well, give me some examples, because I don't know. Help me go grocery shopping,
How do I do it?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we do every day at work too. So I really like seasonal fruits and vegetables are going to be a lot less expensive and healthier when they're in season. So as winter approaches, we actually have citrus fruits coming into season from Florida. So the winter's a great time to have a lot of citrus fruits.
Ooh, I just had a grapefruit today. It was really good.
Good.
It was like
yeah,
really
and
deep.
it was really good.
Yeah,
right?
it was really deep red. Oh, it was good.
Yep. Our winter root vegetables, which are really nutrient dense, so your winter squashes, sweet potatoes, things like that. We also eat a lot of canned beans or dried beans in our house. Things like lentils are really cheap and really healthy. We also eat a lot of plain Greek yogurt. So I like the plain Greek yogurt. I do eat it just for breakfast with fruit, but it's also really versatile as a kitchen ingredient. Yep. So plain Greek yogurt is another good one, and brown rice is a big one in our house. We have a lot of brown rice, and the rice cooker helps. If anybody has a rice cooker, that helps getting you eating more brown rice, because it does take a while to cook the brown rice, and that can really be a deterrent for some folks to make the switch.
Okay, so what's the difference between getting the brown rice or whatever kind of rice that takes the normal amount of time to cook versus like instant?
Oh, okay.
Is there like a nutrition difference?
No, not if you buy the instant brown rice. So, yep, you can buy an instant brown rice. It's just parboiled. So they boil it, then they dehydrate it, and then they box it up for you.
Okay.
So half of the cooking process is already done. So you can definitely buy the quick cooking brown rice and still get the health benefits of brown rice.
Which usually it's a little bit more money. So if you're trying to save money, then go for the less expensive and takes a lot longer.
It does.
And get a rice cooker. So maybe that's a good investment.
Rice cookers are a good investment. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, interesting. So, let's talk about a couple other things. I'm interested in fruits and vegetables, because depending on the time of season, they can get a little bit pricey. I read something the other day that frozen fruits and vegetables are usually a good way to go, and they pack just as much nutrients, and then you can access them at any time. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree, absolutely. As long as you're buying the plain frozen fruits and vegetables, not the kind with the
Plain
sauce. Yeah, exactly. Not the kind with the sauce and the butter added. So as long as you're buying the right kind, absolutely. Now, that's another misconception. People think that, well, frozen isn't healthy, but the frozen fruits and vegetables are actually picked at peak freshness right there in the fields, and they're flash frozen in a warehouse that's usually right there at the farms. So when you allow your fruit and vegetables to ripen in the ground for longer, the nutrients build up in them. You pick them immediately, flash freeze them very quickly, so their nutrients are preserved, rather than being picked before ripeness, sitting on a truck or on an airplane, coming to the East Coast.
Interesting.
Losing nutrients along the way.
Wow, that's fascinating. So honestly, sometimes getting the frozen might even be better.
Yeah, and more economical.
Wow.
And and you can just take out what you need and then freeze the rest, so there's no waste, because every time you throw food in the garbage, you're wasting it. So if your broccoli goes bad or your red pepper goes bad in the back of your vegetable drawer, then there was no sense buying it in the first place.
Yeah, what's the point of it, because it's just going to be wasted.
Exactly.
Yeah, I there's nothing like a good piece of fresh fruit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't want to spend $7 on 4 raspberries. So it's like, why not just get a bag of frozen ones, and then if you put them in your yogurt or whatever, let them thaw out.
And raspberries go bad so quickly in the refrigerator.
Really fast. Yeah. So that's interesting. Okay, so another way to make your dollar go a little bit farther is look to incorporate some frozen fruits and vegetables into your diet. So that can definitely help out.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned the vegetables, like different root vegetables here, but you also talked a little bit, mentioned like some kale, some carrots, and onions are also cheap and really healthy.
Yeah. Yep.
So what are some ways we can incorporate those? Like off the top of my head, I just think stew, which is nice for winter.
Yeah, it is nice for winter. We actually just made a minestrone soup in our office down the street, and it was delicious, and there was kale and onions and carrots in it. But in my house, we really love the kale chips, and we love roasted kale.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, my 4-year-old goes crazy for kale chips. She thinks they're the best thing in the world. She's definitely a dietitian's kid. But that's how we use them. I agree that I like to use them in soups. I use them in soups a lot. So roasted and in soups, and then I'm not sure if you've ever made a kale salad, but that's another really great way to eat kale. You don't have to cook it, just make sure you chop it up really fine. Work the olive oil into it if you're making a salad to kind of soften up the really tough kale leaves, and that's a really great way to enjoy healthy, like that nutrient-rich kale without having to cook it, turn on your oven, that kind of thing.
Okay. That sounds nice, because that way too you're not really losing any nutrients. You're not zapping anything out of there.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about some ideas for you to cook things up, but where do you really get your ideas for your meals from? We gave you a few ideas, but where are some resources that you draw your meals from?
Yeah. Thanks. So I use Pinterest, like a lot of people do. I especially follow the blogger Skinny Taste.
Okay.
So she has a lot of really great ideas. I like her work. And I do a lot of work on Pinterest. Of course, this is my profession. I'm around dietitians all day long. We're constantly talking about food and sharing recipes. So just kind of part of the biz is that we talk to each other. We share recipes around. My day-to-day work at the FNET program, we do a lot of cooking there. So we have a ton of recipes online.
Oh, that's awesome.
A lot of low cost and easy recipes there too. And then I also have just my really thick recipe binder that I've been keeping for 17 or 18 years, and I'll flip through there and I'll see what I haven't made in a while. I like to keep a meal list of the meals that my family really likes to eat. And then when I'm writing that weekly grocery list on the weekends, I can easily go back to my meal list and see, okay, this is what I know everybody's going to eat for the most part. And it's easy for me to pick and choose meals. So it really cuts down on the time it takes me to plan that weekly menu.
Oh, that's fantastic. Just being able to have access to that. And I'm sure the kids definitely have their say too, right?
A little bit. That's actually a totally different topic.
We'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
We'll save that for another time. Awesome. And so when your suggestions for people out there who are, maybe struggling to get back to meal planning. It can be stressful at times, right? People are very busy. They have jobs, they have families, and just balancing it all. What's a good place to just start, making that plan to say, okay, this is something that I want to do. I want to try to incorporate meal planning into my already busy life. What's a good way to start?
I would start with that meals my family likes list. So just grab a piece of notebook paper, grab your, just your fridge pad that you keep on your refrigerator, which is what I do, very basic stuff, and start writing down all the meals that your family eats, pretty much without complaint. Okay. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. And start there. And that's the very first place to start. After that, I would try to incorporate that weekly meal plan. So, and for that, you only need really 5 or 6 meals, because you should plan for leftovers. So one night you're going to have leftovers. Maybe one night you're planning to order in, or you're planning to eat out. Because, everybody needs a break from meal planning every single night of the week. That's really hard to do. So plan 5 to 6 meals. And the other thing people need to remember is that it doesn't have to be this huge to-do. It doesn't have to be a 5-course dinner. Soup and grilled cheese is a perfectly fine dinner. You don't have to really put so much work into it and think that your meals have to look like your Pinterest board.
Yes. Thank you. Now we have 2 people that say your life doesn't have to be Pinterest perfect. Validation.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Katie Mulligan, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're interested, you can check out her website on more advice. She's the owner of Well Family Nutrition Coaching. So hopefully you're going to come back and join us today. We're going to get back up on some more nutrition. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Everyone, please hang tight as we get set up here on Go Local Life for our next guest.